dope. Yo, what's up? What's up? Haha. Getting ready. I'm coming out. Haha. Loads of discs. Okay, I'm Dr. Def, and I'm one of the sample kings, and I'm here to introduce you to our tons of beats. These are all disc samples, bass lines, choruses, vocals, anything you want to know. We got samples. You ever thought of sample, could sample, might want to sample? That's right. These are full of that's just one disc. I took out this whole pack. Wow. Amazing. Yo, what's up? What's up? How you doing? I'm Dr. Def. I am, of course, one of the sample kings, here to instruct you on the use of the SP1200. But first, to my homies in Jamaica, Queens, what's up? Yeah. Yeah. Now, our guest of the show showed up today. We had to get him in here. Had to fly him out of his case. This is Mr. SP1200. You might have heard of him. Say hi. Yeah, well, you heard that, didn't you? You must have heard him on the radio some time ago. Either last week, maybe a Craig Mack track. Might even been Rakim. Who knows? Homeboy's been so large for the past 8 years, he ain't got to say nothing. You just plug him up, put some samples in him. If you know what you're doing, you got a foot out of that track. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no jiving. This machine here is an all-in-one unit. No trigger, like you may have one sample here and a drum machine or keyboard to trigger it from MIDI. No way. This thing here, you hit the button, you put the sample there, it's gonna be there. You can tune it up or go down. Haha, that's fat. You can even take the sample and reverse it. That said, reverse it. That was fat, wasn't it? I know y'all love that one. So look, check it out. Enough of me doing my antics, because you know I'm a Dr. Def. I'm a skillful master. Let's get down to technique. I'm gonna show you how to do the sampling, the putting it in song, sequence, whatever it is. Yo, I work with big acts. I work with Gangstar, Onyx, Tribe Called Quest. Yo, I've also worked with Easy Mo B. Yo, man, they all know who I am. Yo, I'm the man. This is the front of our SP1200 or SP12. The SP12 is organized in 7 modules. We have setup, disc, or on the SP12, cassette disc, we have sync, sample, master control, programming, and performance. The setup cassette disc on an SP12 or a disc, which is found only on the SP1200, sync and sample modes are used less frequently than the others and are normally inactive. To access the functions in one of these modes, it must be activated by pressing the switch located in the mode. When activated, the associated LED light will glow, and functions other than those which pertain to the mode will be locked out. Now, the setup, disk, sync, and sample modes include a printed list of functions. When a mode is active, you can select the desired function by keying in its number. For example, if while the setup mode is active, and let's say you wanted to alter the MIDI parameter, you would key in 22. If you want to define a mix, you would key in 15, as you can see here on our list. Now, mostly all these functions have a default. Our default is our common option, which the machine defaults to. For example, most metronomes click every quarter note. So the SP12's metronome defaults to quarter notes. However, this default setting can easily be changed to any value you want by either keying it in on our keypad or use our up and down buttons located between our tempo and enter button below our master control. There are two ways of altering the SP12's or 1200's parameters. One is to alter the slider settings. This is typically done when changing levels, pitch, and so on. The other is to specify a numeric value with a keypad. This is typically done when telling the SP1200 or 12 how many measures long a segment should be, or the time signature, and so on. Now, during the process of specifying a setting or value, it is necessary to tell the SP12 or 1200's computer when the data you selected should be entered into memory. For example, suppose you're testing out several tempos to find out which groove is going to be, the dopest, fattest kind of groove to give your track that feel. Well, when you actually find the right tempo, pressing the enter button tells the computer to write the desired setting or value you have reached into its memory. Generally, the display will confirm what you have chosen. When it shows the desired setting or value, press enter. You will often need to enter numbers via the keypad. And if you're entering a single-digit number, most times you need to enter a leading zero. That means if the function you have selected requires that you enter a two-digit number, you must enter a leading zero when entering a single-digit number. For example, entering 07 instead of just 7. If the function you have selected allows for entering a one-digit number only and does not accept a two-digit number, do not enter a leading zero. Next, we have the segment and song mode. The SP12 or SP1200 has two main operational modes. In segment mode, you can create individual segments of rhythms, typically a few measures long. In song mode, you can chain these segments together to make a complete song. Example, the intro, verse, chorus, and solo for a song could all be separate segments. Combining these together in the proper order would create a song. Segment and song modes are selected by the leftmost button in the programming module. In song mode, the labels above the 8 buttons to the right of the song segment button apply. In segment mode, the labels below the 8 buttons to the right of the segment song button apply. Now the segment mode in the SP12s or SP1200 is used for like a scratch pad where you can make up rhythms, loop your beats, get your tracks just right, and adjust your tempos and make little mixes so you can see which segments you want to keep, which ones you don't, which ones you want to erase. When going into the song mode's parameters for tempos, mix, and so on replace the parameters worked out in the segment mode. If you return to segment mode from song mode, the segment mode parameters for tempo, mix, etc. will be those of the last song you selected. Next, we have the right arrow and the left arrow buttons right below our display in our master control section. These buttons are used to step through values shown in the display. Each time you press one of these buttons, you will step through one value. Holding down these buttons fast forwards our values, either backwards or forwards. Next, when you first turn on your SP12 or SP1200, the display will show the current song and tempo for that song. The current song remains as is until changed. And when you go into segment mode, the display will show the current segment and tempo for that segment. The current segment remains as is until changed. The SP12 or SP1200s confirms certain actions by sending out a beep tone when monitoring via the mix-out jack. The beep level is set by the metronome level in conjunction with the mix volume. Since the mix volume serves as a master control for all SP12 or SP1200 sounds, if the mix volume is turned down, you won't hear anything, and that includes beep messages. Next, in our performance section, we have sliders here, as you can see. We have 8 sliders, and to the left of it, we have a button, which you can press, which will show us first. The LED will light up tune decay. One more time, it'll light up mix. The next time, multi-mode. You can use our sliders in conjunction with each one of these 3 different performance settings. Now below that, we have another section. Below our performance section, these are our pads. We have 1 through 8 here. And each pad corresponds to a row. We have A, B, C, D to the left, right next to the white button. We can hit the white button. Our first row will come up, hit it again, the next row, the next, and the next. And each one is for these 8 pads. So I actually have 8 times 4, which is 32 different places we can put some sort of sound in memory. And we also have to the right our tap repeat, run stop, and record edit buttons. Now, let's go to the back of the machine and see what we have back there. Well, here we are. Let's start from left to right. First, we have our sample input, which we use to put our signal in. Requires a 1/4" cable, and we can use a sample from a cassette, CD, turntable, microphone, and we put our input into here, and we check our level into our machine. Next, we have our mix out. Now, this gives us a mix out of everything. Whatever we have on any pad, we'll be able to hear through our mix out. Next to that, you can see here we have our channel outs. Now, these are very important. For example, going to a studio, you always want to separate your drums or your samples on a separate tracks. So it's good to have each sample come out of a separate output, or similar sound come out the same output. For example, a closed hi-hat and open hi-hat. Now we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 outs. And as you can see, the last two are unfiltered. That means whatever we sample and we let come out these two ports will be unfiltered. Next, now to the right of that we have our met click out, which is for our metronome. Very important to have a metronome. It'll give us a click, a count to how many beats per minute. So this way we can get our samples in line to the proper tempo. Next to that we have our SEMTI out and our SEMTI click in. We also have our run stop, step end, and tap auto rep. Now we also have, which is very important, which we're going to use for our hip hop production, is our MIDI in, MIDI out, and MIDI through jacks. These jacks are very important. We need to use these jacks when communicating with other MIDI devices. And we'll show you this later on. Now right above that, we have, of course, our fuse. We have our on-off button and the jack where we plug our power cable in so we can get busy. Well, guess what? It's time to get busy. We might as well get started and do what we're here for. Let's sample something. All right, this is kind of time to get busy. This is the time we're going to show you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So here we go. Now in this section, we're going to teach you how to sample. What you've been waiting for, we might as well get right to the point. We're going to show you how to set the VU level. That's your volume meter. Also, how to assign and where to assign your sample to go. Setting your sample length. So you have the proper length to use for your sample. You don't want to use too much. You want to use just enough, so you can cut off what's left over and keep saving on your sample time. Remember, we've only got 10 seconds, so the optimum use of our sample time is to our own advantage. Also, we'll show you how the machine can set its own threshold level, or you can set the threshold level. And you can get it so that the first sound it hears is sample, or you can wait till the sound comes up, press the button, and it'll start sampling. I think that's it. I know it's it. It's gotta be it. Yo, it's time to get busy. Okay, here we are at the sample section. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to press that red button right there, right below sample, and get that LED lit. And we are on number 1 automatically. Press number 1, and here we are. It'll say A1 if you have nothing in the machine. And this is our VU mode. As you can see, it says 1 there. Very simple. That means when a signal comes in, we can judge what the volume of our signal is. Now we'll press 2, and 2 says assign voice. Now as you can see, it says sampling A1. Now press enter. On the bottom row it says output channel 1. You can make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. As we saw earlier, we have 8 outputs. We can send this particular sample to any one of the 8. I'll put down 1. Now, next in our sample section, we go down our list, we have 3. We'll press 3. This is very important. This is the level, or the input gain. As you can see, upon pressing 3, it says input gain plus 00 dB. And use arrows left and right. Now, first of all, we get a signal coming into the machine. Let's do that first. And what we're going to do next is we're going to judge this level. Now, as you can see, we have a signal coming into our machine. We can adjust our gain knob, which is right next to our red sample button in our sample section. We put this gain knob up, and we can adjust our gain and turn it up, let's say maximum, to see how loud our sound is. And we're going to see a little line. It's going to be our peak. As you can see, the line goes every time to the peak of whatever is happening with whatever we're sampling. What we want to do is get that line as far across that bottom row. I like to have mine somewhere near the plus and the 00. Now, I don't like this level. What I'll do is I'll press 3. I'll use my arrow to go to the right. As you can see, I change it to plus 20 dB. I'll press enter. As you can see, we have a lot more sound. Matter of fact, it's past that point. Now I will adjust my gain knob in my sample section and bring down my sample level to a level that I feel will give me the best results. And this can only be done through trial and error with your particular equipment. Now I've got what I want. As you can see, it's kind of where I like it at. Now I'll press enter. Next, we'll go to threshold. There are 2 ways to initiate sampling: threshold sensitivity sampling and force sampling. With threshold sensitivity sampling, once sampling is armed, sampling begins whenever the signal to be sampled exceeds the program level. To set the threshold level, 1. With the sampler module active, key in 4. The display shows the regular bar graph, as you can see, on the bottom line, and a single bar on the top line, which represents the threshold level. If the threshold has not been adjusted since the memory was last cleared, the threshold defaults to the minimum, and the display advises you to use slider 1. To change the threshold level, just vary slider 1. Generally, you will set threshold level just above the residual noise of the sound to be sampled. Therefore, the noise will not initiate sampling, but the signal that exceeds the threshold will. There's a hint here. Set the lowest possible threshold. If the beginning of the sound is cut off, the threshold is too high. If there's a delay before the beginning of the sound, the threshold is too low, and the sample will probably trigger by some noise prior to the actual signal. Next, we'll go to step 5 in our sample section. Now, with the sample mode active, key in 5, the display's top line indicates the amount of time available for sampling. Now, with the standard SP12, this will be 1.2 seconds if the user sounds are all empty. With the turbo model, the maximum setting sample length is 2.5 seconds. Therefore, even if you have more than 2.5 seconds available, the display will indicate just 2.5 seconds. Once you have less than 2.5 seconds of sample time left, the display will indicate the maximum amount of time available for sampling. Now what we do here, we'll use slider 1 to change the sample length in terms of, milliseconds in increments of 0.1 second. When the display confirms the choice, press enter. The sample length will remain as set until changed, or until you select a different user number. Now note this, the Turbo SP12 is partitioned into two 2.5 second zones. Sounds cannot cross over from one zone to the other. For example, if you record a 2.0 second sound, then another 2.0 second sound, there will be 0.5 seconds remaining in each zone. You cannot record 1 second sound at this point, although it would be able to record 2.5 second sounds. Now our Turbo has 5 seconds of sampling time in an SP12 Turbo. And in our SP1200, we have double that. We have 10 seconds of sampling time. Okay, we've set the level, the threshold, the sample length, and assigned the sound to be sampled to the right user sound and gave it an output. Now it's time to sample. Now, to initiate threshold sensitivity sampling, key in 7. The display's top line says sample armed, while the bottom line shows the moving bar VU meter. As soon as a level of the signal to be sampled exceeds a threshold level, sampling will begin. Sampling will stop at the end of the programmed sample length or if the SP12 or 1200 runs out of memory. Now, for force sampling is useful for situations where the signal to be sampled is more or less continuous. To initiate force sampling, key in 9, that's it, press 9. The display's top line says sampling. When the bottom line shows the moving VU bar meter, sampling will stop at the end of the program sample length, or if the SP12 or 1200 runs out of memory. After sampling is completed, the SP12 or 1200 will check the sample, and one of 2 messages will appear in the display's top line. Sampling overload. That message indicates that the sound being sampled exceeded the SP12's or 1200's headroom. However, this sound is nonetheless available for use if desired. And the other message would be sample is good, indicating that no overload occurred. Now, if you're not satisfied with the sample, try again by keying in 6 to resample the sound again. Now, sometimes it's necessary to delete a sample. Now, recording over a user sound will erase the previous user sound contents. However, you might also want to erase a user sound without recording over it in order to create more memory space. Now, to erase a user sound, 1. Activate the setup mode and key in 20. The display will ask you which user sound you want to delete. 2. Key in the user sound to be deleted with the keypad. The display will ask you to confirm your choice by pressing yes or no. After pressing yes, the sample will be deleted. Note, if you have copied a user sound over to another bank, deleting the original sound will not erase the copied sound. The copied sound must itself be specifically erased. Okay, now we're going to truncate our sample. Now, truncation shortens a sample's length by trimming off the end and the beginning of our sample. Yeah, what's up? Yeah, it's me, Dr. Depp again. It's time to do the sampling. Let's get busy. Enough of this high-tech crap, man. Let's get down to the point. That's the reason why you got our tape, because we show you how it's done. Get your cassette out, the one you want to sample from. Get your CD, the one you want to sample from. Yo, even get your turntable set up and ready to roll, because that's going to set you up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we're going to show you how to sample those samples and make them sound fat. What we're going to do, we're going to measure the volume level. Then we're going to set a threshold. We're going to put the sample where it got to go. We can put it here, there, here. Click this button, put it over there. Anywhere. And we're going to show you how you can tune it up or make it fat and low. You know what I'm saying? Even reverse it. You know, make it go. Yeah, buddy, you know what I'm talking about. Reverse that sample, make it go backwards, backwards, any kind of way you want to make it go. Because what we're going to do is make you create a fat track. I'm going to show you all the flavor there is. So let's get busy. We're going to sample. Remember, we're the sample kings. Nobody does it better. I'm telling you. Yo, I got a fly girl, man. I got all that. The truncated sample. 1. It's a good practice to set sliders 1 and 2 all the way down, and sliders 3 and 4 all the way up before beginning the truncation process. Activate the setup module and key in 19. The display's top line will show the user sound to be truncated. If this is the desired user sound, press enter. If not, key in the desired user sound with the keypad, then press enter. The display's top line will now show the start point, which defaults to 0000, and the user sound being truncated. The display's bottom line will show the endpoint of the sample, which defaults to the sample length, and the loop length, which defaults to none. Example, if the end display shows 27,500, then the sample is exactly 1 second long. Slider 1 gives coarse control over the amount of start truncation, while slider 2 gives fine control. Moving the sliders upwards increases the amount of truncation. Slider 3 gives coarse control over the end truncation, while slider 4 gives fine control. Moving the sliders downwards increases the amount of truncation from the end of your sample. Once you adjust your sample to where you've got the beginning you want up to the end you want, you now have the correct sample size that you would like your sample to be. And as you start truncating a sample, what I want you to do is to tap the play button of the user sound you're trying to truncate. This way you can hear the changes that are happening to your sample when you use your slider 1 and 2 or 3 and 4 to get rid of the beginning or the end. And listen back to get the right and proper sample size. When you're done, I want you to press enter. The top row will read make truncation permanent. On the bottom row, it'll say Y/N. Y is for yes, N is for no. What I do is I usually make it N if I'm just trying to adjust it to see if it matches a particular tempo. Once I have the proper tempo, I go back to my truncation, then press enter, and then press Y, meaning yes, make it permanent, and I will save sample memory. All right, let's get busy. Here we go. Okay, you've heard that enough. Check this out. What we're going to do is show you how it's done. You've already learned how to sample and how to truncate. Now what I generally do, since my machine, or any SP1200, only has 10 seconds, and SP12s only have 5 seconds, I like to use records for samples, so I increase the speed of the record, and that way I can sample the record at a high speed. Then after I do that, I can tune them up to the speed I want them at, or try to adjust my sampling, like sample it one time at one speed, sample at another speed, and try to adjust it to get to the right speed so my rapper can get busy. Now, here's how I do it. I press this button here by performance, tune decay. As you can see, the screen changed. We have all 8 of these faders and the levels that are set for the tuning of each particular sample. Here's all my samples. The last 2 are hi-hats, of course. Now, as you can see, we have different pitches for each sample that were actually sampled, and we've got different tunings for each one of them. We also, after pressing this button again, you see the mix, it changed to the mix. I also can mix my samples the way I want to have a mix as far as levels are concerned, loud or softer in the mix, or somewhere between loud and soft in the mix. And that's how it comes out. I can press the button here. It's a sequence. It's playing in a song form. It's a song. It's the first step. It's the first sequence. That's the second sequence. Second step. And that is memorized by the machine. Now, what's also very useful when using your SP1200 or SP12 is the multi-pitch. You press setup. Press my setup here. So setup light go on. And see it says setup right here. I'll press 11. Multi-pitch select sound. You can select any one of these pads here with a sample on it, and it will multi-pitch that sound. And we'll pick that sound in. Now watch. All these pads are changed now. They all only have one sample that they're triggering. And you saw what I did. I press 11, multi-pitch, select sound. The first pad I hit was the sound I selected, and then that sound was put on every pad here in a descending order in pitch. That's multi-pitch. Now to exit multi-pitch, you can go, press 1, 3, exit. It says yes or no. That's yes. And we're out of it. We're back to all of the same samples. Now, we have multi-level also. We can still have setup on here, setup function. I'll press 1 and 2, as we can see here from our list. And that's multi-level. Select sound, we'll select, let's say, snare drum. And see it's low? That's louder. So it goes low to loud. And we can even see that. As you can see here, I pressed the button here twice, went from tune to mix. You can see right here the mix. Right here you can see where it goes up, increasing in sound. Now to leave this, we can go to press 13 and yes, and we've left it. We're back to normal again. Now what multi-pitch is really good for is for bass lines. Like sometimes I'll take a bass note and I'll put it in multi-pitch. I'll make a bass line up, something real deep and smooth, or whatever your particular flavor is. You know what I'm saying. And that's how you can take your samples and actually get them in tune and mix them, get an idea of what's going on. Now, the next thing we're going to show you is how the sequence goes. So look, I'll see you again soon on the next live shoot. But otherwise, here we go again. Alrighty. Yeah, man, I thought she had some great legs. Boy, yo, next time you go to the store, though, man, I'm buying the coffee. Yeah, okay, check it out. Look, you got your sample. You know where it goes. You know where it's at. You know how we made it sound funky. Now it's time for us to put it in the sequence. That means make it loop and add other samples on top of it. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, like you're cooking. You know what I'm saying? But you're making fat beats. Here's the deal. It's very simple. We listen to our metronome, we time our stuff up, we adjust our samples to what we're doing. Look, this is the more I can really say. That's it. This is real simple. Look, I'm going to go back out there and see if I can see that girl back in the coffee shop. And this time, I'm buying the coffee and donuts. Yeah, oh man, that girl was fine. I'm telling you, G. She was, I'm telling you. Now that we have our samples, it's time to make up a sequence of these samples so they're playing in order. Or better yet, it's called a segment. Now, as you can see, we would press the white button under programming and go to segment. The light will light up right next to the word segment. Erasing a segment clears out all existing drum sounds and automatically redimensions the segment to 2 measures of 4/4. Before erasing a segment, always check whether the segment already contains something you want to keep. Now, to erase a segment, stop your drum machine, SP1200, confirm that you are in segment mode, and press erase. The display helpfully mentions that you can erase either a sound or segment. Erasing a sound will be covered later. To erase a segment, enter the 2-digit segment number. The display will replace the flashing cursor with the number you entered and ask you to confirm that this is the segment you want to erase. If it is, press yes. After erasing, the display will return to whatever segment you had keyed in prior to starting the erasing process. The next thing we need to do is to set the dimensions of our segment. We need to set the time signature by pressing time signature. The display will probably show the 04/4 default time signature. Now this is the time signature for everything we use and everything you hear. You will not need to change it unless you're doing some sort of 5/4 or some off timing type of beat, which I doubt. If you are, no problem. All you need to do is to look at the cursor. It'll be flashing under the first digit. And all you have to do is change the number to either 5/4, 6/4, or 7/4, or whatever number you feel that's going to work for the kind of off time signature you want to use. But everything you hear on the radio and all rap is 4/4. Now, what we need to do next is set our segment length. We have our time signature. Now, to set the number of measures and beats in a measure of a segment, press segment length. The display will probably show the default value of 02 bars 00 beats. To increase the number of measures in a segment up to 99, press right arrow. Tap this button to go forward a digit at a time, or hold it down to fast forward. To decrease the number of measures in a segment down to 1, tap or hold the left arrow. You may also use the keypad to enter the number of bars. When the display shows the desired segment length, of course we press enter, and we have it. Next, we will need to autocorrect. Autocorrect lets you correct patterns with perfect timing by placing whatever drum sound you play on your choice of the nearest 8th note, 8th note triplet, 16th note, 16th note triplet, 32nd note, or 32nd note triplet. Now, to understand this, it will require trial and error. If you're a musician and you've been to school and studied, you'll know. And if not, here's the best way to do it. Okay, let's press autocorrect. The display shows current autocorrect value, and that default is 1/4. Now, you can use the arrows right below our display and go to 16th, which says 1/16. Most of the music you hear, 16 is the best autocorrection. If you want to do swing or triplets, press the arrow one more time. This is the swing. 1/16T. That's 16th note triplets, which gives you that funky swing feel. You need to practice, play the swing, and see how it works compared to the regular 16. Anything higher than 16, you have to be more accurate where you hit and trigger your samples from. And it's also good to even use high resolution. That way sounds, for example, saxophones, which you want them to flow into, aren't stuck or in a stiff autocorrection. You can hit it, and right where you hit it is where you hear it back at. Autocorrection is very useful. It helps you get great timing, and it helps to make your tracks sound very smooth. Now that we've selected a segment and gave it the dimensions we wanted, and we set our autocorrection, it's time to record a segment in real time. While holding down the record button, push run start so that the run stop light glows. The metronome will start. The run stop LED will blink off on the beginning of the segment, and there will also be an accented metronome beat at the beginning of each measure. Now, in order to adjust our tempo, what I normally do, let's press stop. I've got a sample. Let's say I got a loop, and I want to figure out what the tempo of that loop is. You press tempo. Then we hit this button here called tap repeat. I'll hit the sample and then tap along with the sample on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the beat, as fast or as slow as the beat goes. You'll notice that the tempo changes in the tempo section of the screen, which is to the right, where you have the musical note equals the beats per minute. Once you find the right tempo from tapping out that tempo, press enter. It'll make it much easier for us to loop our beat. And to also find the tempo that we want our segment to be at. Now, we can press Record Edit button and the Run Stop button while holding down the Record button, and we are now able to record on this particular sequence. We can put our beat in the way you want it. Just tap your beat in and hit your loop. I like to hit my loops on the first beat or get my sample so it starts on the first beat and make that correspond with the loudest click of the metronome. Hit the sample that exact moment and we'll have the sample at the start, right where we want to start it from, and get it to loop. And then tap it again if it's 2 bars, let's say. And we can tap a beat in. Let's see. And once that's done, we can hit the Record Edit button and our beat's in motion, and we can try other sounds without having them re-recorded. If you want to record again, just press the Record button down again, and we're back to recording into the sequence. Now, while recording the sequence, we can take off the Record button one more time, and we can press under Performance where it says Tune, Decay, Mix, Multi-Mode. Press that button, and we've got tune. Look on your display, and you'll see that each one of the faders, these sliders right here, 1 through 8, you can move the value or the tuning of each particular sample in whatever group you're in. Could be A1, B1, B2, whatever it is across the board. You can just figure out where you want the tuning of that particular sample, as you can see. And you can also do that for the mix. You can mix the sounds, get the sounds to the proper level you want to hear them back, and move that back around. And if you want to record them that way, we can press our Record button once we audition the sound, and then hit it. And it'll be in the sequence at the pitch you want it at. Now, if you want to erase while in record mode, you press the Erase button, which is the 6th button over, where it says Erase, by the segment light, as you can see. Hold that button down, pick the sound you want to erase, press that button down, and we're erasing. Once it's erased, we can press our Record Edit button again, and we're back in motion. Let's say you want to copy a sequence. We got a sequence we like, we want to copy it, and maybe add or delete something from it. Well, we'll stop our sequence, press Copy, as you can see here, and the display reads Copy Segment. We put in the number of the segment we want to copy. Then press Enter. The bottom display reads To Segment. That means to which segment is the segment we picked to be copied to. Now, we'll pick a 2-digit number of the segment we chose to be copied to, press Enter, and that segment now is a copy of the segment we picked to copy from. Now, once we have all our segments lined up and we know what we want to do, next thing we want to do is to put them in a song form so that we can play it back in a long song form and hear how it's going to go along. Where the rapper's going to come in, where the vocal's going to come in, and hear where the chorus and the bridge and the break section work. Let's go to that. Now, to make up a song form, we go to our programming section, and on our programming module, we'll press that white button below programming. And you can see the LED will go to song. Now, this is very simple. Now, you just press the Record Edit button in our Master Control section next to our Run Stop button. And you'll see it'll come up saying Song 1, the particular tempo we already chose from the beginning, and Step 1. And here we would enter in the segment we want first. Then we'll press Enter. Then the next segment, Enter, and the next segment, until we have all our segments together. Once that's done, we can press Record Edit again, and now we can play our song form from beginning to end by pressing the Run Stop button. Now suppose you got a segment, we'll say, and you want to delete it. Well, we press the Record Edit. We go to the step where the segment is at we want to delete. We press Delete, which is our 6th button over. And we can delete it. If you want to insert, we press Insert right next to the Delete button, which is to its left. Press that. We can put in the segment we want, press Enter, and that segment is in. This way, rather than going back to the top and keep rewriting your sequence, you can now throw in sequences into your song form where you want them at. Just remember the step where that sequence is at, and you can adjust your song form to get it perfect. Now let's say you want to repeat a particular segment in the song form rather than keep writing the step over. Well, once you have the step in there, you can go to that step, then press Repeat, which is the 2nd button over, and you can put in the number of times, either keypad it in or use the arrows up or down. Once you have the amount of times that you want to repeat that particular segment, you can press Enter, and it's right in your program. And now you have your song form. Well, the next thing we need to do in our hip-hop production, we need to save all the information we just did. Let's do that right now. Now, since you spent a lot of time on sampling your samples, getting your segments into songs, you should take the small amount of time it takes to save all your samples and segments. No matter what, always save as often as possible. Don't wait until the end. You never know what could happen. Someone could kick a cable out, or who knows what, but always save your information. Now, on an SP12, you can save 2 ways. One to disk, which is a 5.25, which goes into a Commodore 1541 Commodore disk drive, which attaches to the back of the machine like this. Or you could save to cassette. Connect the output from the cassette sync out in the back of your SP12 into your cassette player. And if you want to load in information from the cassette, you go out from the cassette player into your SP12. Now, it's very simple to save. The first thing we have to do is we have to format our disk, whether we have an SP12 or SP1200. Now, the SP12 requires a 5.25 disk like this. An SP1200 requires a 3.5 disk like this. And the SP1200 is unique. It has its own disk drive built into the machine. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to format our disk. We insert our disk into the disk drive like this. And on the SP12, we activate the cassette disk module, then key in 2 for disk and 0 for format. On the SP1200, we insert our disk, then we press 9, which formats our disk. After that's complete on the SP1200, it'll say Save Software. Press Yes. And this will save the software to our 3.5 floppy disk. Now, once you've formatted your disk either on the SP12 or SP1200, everything is very simple. It's written right there in the cassette disk module on the SP12 and the disk module on the SP1200. On the SP1200, you have to just key in certain numbers. Once the module is activated, 1 for save sequences, 2 for save sounds, 3 for load sequences, 4 for load a particular sequence number, 5 load sounds, 6 load one particular sound. 7, a catalog of all the sequences. 8, a catalog of all the sounds. 9, format. And 0 to load sequences and sounds. With the SP12, it's different. First, you must press either a 1 or 2. 1 indicates cassette. That means you're either going to save, load, or verify sounds from your cassette. 2 means disk, which means you're either going to save, load, or verify sounds to your disk. You would press, for example, to load sounds, press 2, then 5. Or, if you're loading sounds to a cassette, you'd press 1, then 5, and so on. It's very simple. And the main difference here is that with the SP12, we can verify our sequences and verify our sounds. And 9 is not the format as it is on the SP1200, but 9 is our catalog key. And that's it. This will help you get started for your basic MIDI hip-hop production. You should also use this tape along with your book to get the maximum out of your machine. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call us. Remember, nobody does it better. This is Dr. Dev saying, yo, later.